Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever just paused during your morning commute, looked around at the absolute sea of cars on the highway, and realized that almost everyone out there is going to be doing this exact same drive until they're in their late 60s, or maybe even longer? I mean, we all know the script, right? You go to school, you get a good job, you put in your 40 to 50 hours a week, and yet you still wake up stressed about money. It's an absolutely exhausting cycle. It's basically the modern equivalent of a hamster wheel. Well, today, we're unpacking the actual blueprint for lasting wealth. We're going to diagnose exactly why most people stay financially stuck, break down why the traditional path completely fails the vast majority of us, and, most importantly, we're going to show you how you can step right off that wheel and become the absolute exception to the rule. Because honestly, it's a pretty staggering reality that an overwhelming 99% of people never reach true financial independence. Think about that for a second. The vast majority of everyday, incredibly hardworking people will literally spend their entire adult lives trading their irreplaceable time for a paycheck, and they'll never quite get ahead of the curve. They are trapped in a system that demands constant, non-stop labor just to survive. But then there's the 1%, that tiny, tiny fraction of the population who have fundamentally changed the relationship with money, which allows them to dictate the exact terms of their own lives. And here's the secret. They aren't inherently smarter or luckier than you. They just operate using a completely different set of rules.
So, we have to ask, why is the failure rate so phenomenally high for everyday folks who are just trying to build wealth? Is it just bad luck? Is the system completely rigged? Well, let's think about a guy, we'll call him David. Now, David did everything society told him to do. He got great grades, he took out those student loans to get a respectable degree, landed a really solid corporate job, and bought a nice little house in the suburbs. On paper, David is a total success story. Yet David is losing sleep over his credit card balances. He dreads the thought of a random medical bill showing up, and he gets that awful pit in his stomach every single Sunday night because he has absolutely no choice but to wake up and go to a job he merely tolerates. The truth is, David's situation isn't about bad luck. It actually comes down to a series of invisible traps and really subtle daily habits that just quietly drain our resources. And today, we're exposing those exact traps so you can completely avoid David's fate.
Now, before we get into the traps, we need to get clear on what we're actually talking about. Financial freedom is not about hoarding millions of dollars. It's not about scoring private jets or, flexing exotic sports cars on social media. We get so entirely sidetracked by that Hollywood image of wealth, don't we? But financial freedom is simply having ultimate control over your time and your money. That's it. It's waking up on a Tuesday morning and knowing you have the absolute choice of how you want to spend your day. It's having enough passive income, investments, and savings to cover your living expenses so that working becomes a voluntary option, not a desperate necessity. Really, it's about buying back your life so you can spend it with your family, dive into a passion project, or honestly, just read a book on a Thursday afternoon without feeling an ounce of guilt.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover 1. The 10 financial traps, 2. Real-life money scenarios, 3. Your freedom action plan, and 4. Small steps, lasting freedom.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the 10 financial traps.
We're going to break down the first 5 traps right now. And what's crazy is how these catch the vast majority of us completely off guard, mostly because society has entirely normalized them. So trap number 1 is living paycheck to paycheck. When you exist in this state, you are constantly running on a financial treadmill. Every single dollar you earn is basically already spoken for before it even hits your bank account. And if that treadmill stops for even 1 second, like a missed week of work or a sudden illness, you instantly fall off into a total crisis. Trap number 2 is lifestyle inflation, and this is arguably the most deceptive trap of the whole bunch. It's that psychological trap where your expenses just magically rise to match your new higher income. You get a promotion, you feel you've earned a reward, so you upgrade your apartment, you buy a new car, you get a whole new wardrobe. Suddenly, making 6 figures feels exactly as tight as making 50,000 used to feel. Trap number 3 is a lack of financial education. The harsh reality here is that our school systems are great at teaching us advanced algebra and ancient history, but they completely fail to teach us how to manage a household budget, legally optimize our taxes, or actually invest in the stock market. We're basically sent into the real world financially blind. Trap number 4 is bad debt and credit habits. Using high-interest debt, like a credit card charging 25% interest to buy consumer goods that rapidly drop in value, that is a guaranteed wealth killer. It is quite literally the mathematical opposite of building wealth. And trap number 5 is not investing early enough. As humans, our brains really struggle to comprehend compound interest. But every single year you wait to start investing, you are surrendering the magical compounding power of time. And that just forces you to work exponentially harder in your later years just to try and catch up.
Moving right along to trap number 6, the fear of taking calculated risks. We are practically brainwashed to play it completely safe, put all your money in a traditional savings account and just leave it there forever.
But in a world with inflation, keeping your money perfectly safe actually guarantees you're going to slowly lose purchasing power year after year. Trap number 7 is depending on a single income. Now, especially in the context of modern corporate layoffs, having only one paycheck from one single employer means you have a catastrophic single point of failure. If your company restructures tomorrow, your entire financial foundation crumbles overnight. Trap number 8 is a lack of long-term planning. And it's honestly astonishing how many people will spend months meticulously planning a one-week vacation, but they won't spend a single afternoon mapping out their financial future for the next 10 years. Trap number 9 is emotional spending. Picture this. You've had a brutal week at work, your boss yelled at you, you're exhausted, so you buy a new gadget or some expensive clothes simply to feel a little bit better. You're trading your long-term financial freedom for a fleeting short-term dopamine hit. And finally, trap number 10, not developing high-income skills. The modern economy, especially with the explosion of the gig economy, relentlessly rewards specialized, highly valuable skills. If you aren't dedicating time to consistently learning and upgrading your professional abilities, your earning potential is just going to flatline, leaving you incredibly vulnerable to being left behind.
Okay, let's move on to Section 2, Real-Life Money Scenarios.
To really understand these concepts, let's picture a very common scenario. Imagine you finally get that promotion and a 15% raise after 3 long, grueling years of hard work. What is the absolute immediate temptation? Going straight to the dealership to finance a brand new luxury car. This exact scenario is how lifestyle inflation silently eats your wealth from the inside out. I mean, think about the mechanics of this decision for a second. You work incredibly hard, you finally secure a higher salary, and instead of taking that extra 15% and putting it toward your investments to buy back your future time, you lock yourself into a 5-year loan with a massive monthly payment. Yes, your income went up, but your net wealth stayed exactly the same. Actually, scratch that, it probably went down because of the depreciating asset and all the interest you're paying on the debt. You have effectively taken your hard-earned raise and handed it straight to the bank and the car manufacturer. This is the invisible hamster wheel that keeps 99% of people running in place, completely convinced they're making progress just because their paycheck is a little bit bigger.
Now, there is a pervasive myth in our culture that a traditional 9-to-5 job is the absolute safest route you can take. But relying on a single salary from one employer is actually incredibly risky. You are placing your entire livelihood, your whole family's security, in the hands of a single manager or a single corporate board. Compare that to the mindset of the 1%. They actively focus on developing valuable, high-income skills. These are the folks who dedicate their evenings or weekends to mastering digital marketing or learning to write code, understanding high-ticket sales, or analyzing complex data. When you develop skills that the open market actually highly values, you give yourself ultimate leverage. You gain the power to confidently negotiate a higher salary, or launch a lucrative side hustle, or even build your own independent business. You stop hoping that one employer will graciously take care of you, and you take absolute control of your own earning potential.
And then there's the brutal irony of emotional spending, which is a cycle I think pretty much all of us are intimately familiar with. It's Friday evening, you are completely drained from a deeply unfulfilling job, and you tell yourself, man, I deserve a treat. So you order some wildly expensive takeout or you buy something online that you definitely don't actually need. And sure, the rush of the purchase provides a quick hit of comfort. It soothes the exhaustion of the work week. But the absolute tragedy here is that the very money you're spending to temporarily escape the stress of your job is the exact same money that, if you just invested it, could permanently buy your escape from that job in the future. You are actively funding your own ongoing captivity. Breaking the habit of emotional spending requires some radical self-awareness and learning how to process stress without automatically pulling out a credit card.
Which brings us to the most empowering part of our explainer. Section 3, your Freedom Action Plan. We have diagnosed the disease, so now let's administer the cure. If you want to break this cycle, you need a highly specific action plan, and it starts right here. Step 1, create a budget. And listen, a budget is not a restriction, it's a roadmap. Consider using the 50-30-20 rule. That's 50% of your income for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% directly to savings and investments. It just brings absolute clarity to your cash flow. Step 2, build an emergency fund. You really want to aim to park 3 to 6 months of basic living expenses in a high-yield savings account. This is your financial shock absorber. When your car inevitably breaks down or a medical emergency happens, it's merely an inconvenience, not a total disaster that forces you into credit card debt. Step 3, invest consistently. Take advantage of broad market index funds, which historically allow your money to just grow with the overall economy. Better yet, set up your accounts to automatically invest a portion of your paycheck every single month, so you literally don't even have to think about it. Step 4, learn valuable skills. Like we talked about, dedicate at least a few hours a week to making yourself indisputably more valuable to the marketplace. Take courses, read books, get certifications. Step 5, increase your income. Use those newly acquired skills to aggressively negotiate a raise, pivot to a higher-paying industry, or start a side business. And finally, step 6, avoid unnecessary debt. If you do not have the liquid cash for consumer goods, you simply do not buy them. Period. Stop paying exorbitant interest to banks and start letting compound interest actually work for you.
Let's wrap things up with Section 4, Small Steps, Lasting Freedom.
Now, as we talk about executing this plan, we need a reality check. The journey to financial freedom is a marathon. It is definitely not a sprint. It requires immense psychological endurance. Look, there are no get-rich-quick guarantees in reality. It's not about finding some secret, obscure cryptocurrency that rockets to the moon overnight, and it's certainly not about winning the lottery. Financial independence is built entirely through the compounding power of small, remarkably consistent habits repeated over a long period of time. Think of it like a snowball rolling down a massive hill. When you first start packing that snow together, when you first start budgeting and investing, it feels incredibly small, and the progress feels painfully slow. You might look at your accounts after 6 months and feel super discouraged. But you have to keep pushing. As that snowball rolls, it gathers more snow. The momentum builds, and over years and decades, the compounding just takes over. And suddenly, what started as a tiny, fragile nest egg becomes a massive, unstoppable engine that generates freedom, security, and endless options for you and your family.
Ultimately, wealth is just a choice of daily habits. Every single dollar you spend, save, or invest is quite literally a vote for the type of future you want to live. You can absolutely choose the temporary comfort of lifestyle inflation and emotional spending, or you can choose the permanent peace of financial independence. The choice is entirely in your hands. So I want to hear from you. What is the biggest financial lesson you have learned on your own journey? Is there a specific trap you managed to escape, or maybe a daily habit that finally clicked for you and completely changed your trajectory? Drop your answer in the comments below, because your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to read today to start their own journey toward that top 1%. If this explainer brought you value today, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you so much for hanging out and learning with me today. Stick to the plan, and I will see you in the next explainer.